the media cannot be responsible for telling you what is beautiful. You can be responsible for telling yourself what is beautiful, and you need to be responsible for understanding that you yourself are beautiful. Regardless of whether you align with the media's beauty standards, regardless of whether you align with your friends' beauty standards, there is beauty within all of us that is very easily forgotten about when the media tells you that beauty has one look. Considering I film most of my videos usually quite late at night, it feels a bit odd filming when there is daylight outside, as you can see down there. Daylight, very nice. It's very nice actually. Basically, the occurrence has occurred, and what we're doing today is obviously a video. Shock, nothing's changed there, but slightly different. Again, less fitness focused, but more of a discussion I feel needs to be had, and also more focused around the realm of eating disorders and disordered eating. And this video stems from Linda Sun's recent video, which is Finally Telling the Truth, My Story, My Eating Disorder, Exercise Addiction and Clickbait Thumbnails, which was a video that has been sent to me by quite a few people now. Linda's videos are very much a fantastic catalyst for a lot of ED conversations, and they also get sent to me very regularly because she posts something that people are a bit concerned about or something along those lines. And considering one of the primary purposes of this channel is to discuss things that are maybe hard to discuss and maybe show that vulnerability and openness and bring awareness to things that are usually unfortunately ignored in the industry, such as mental health, sometimes seeing videos that Linda has shared or similar content creators have shared, it gives me an opportunity to provide my thoughts on something I deem to be very important. So I've just finished watching this video for the second time now, and it's kind of left me feeling quite sad, because of a lot of what Linda has said throughout this video I think probably applies to a lot of people watching this video. And in honesty, it probably applies to myself to some extent, but maybe a slightly different realm, which I'll get to shortly. But ultimately, these topics do need to be brought up and they do need to be discussed, and that's exactly what we're going to do today. So obviously, before we get into the video, we're going to do the few bits and bobs that need to be done. So if you decide at any point you do like this video, please let me know you like the video by liking the video. 1,300 likes in the first 24 hours is the goal, so if we can reach that, I would really appreciate it. If you haven't already, please do consider clicking the red button down below to subscribe to the channel, and maybe even the bell next to it so you get notified when I upload every week, twice a week. And if you have a question you want me to answer at the end of the next video, please do consider dropping it down below in the comment section for Comment Question of the Week, and I shall do so. No hat today, no headwear. I have it right here next to me. It's a headwear I was looking forward to last week, but I've decided, you know what, time and a place. Because essentially, when it comes to a deep and meaningful message or video, I feel like it may take away from the value of that message if I were to distract you with a headpiece. And, you know, so very much like I said, a time and a place. Obviously, due to the nature of the video, I'm going to throw this out there very quickly. This is more as a warning to you, so you can decide whether this is a video you want to continue with or not. But I will be discussing things like body image, eating disorders, and everything along those lines. So for that, I will obviously throw in a trigger warning, and hopefully that gives you an opportunity to decide, is watching this video gonna negatively impact you? If the answer to that question is yes, click off the video, it's really not worth it. If the answer to that question is no, but I'd still recommend considering if you want to continue. Never feel any pressure to watch any video I've created, especially if it's a triggering one like this, because your mental health is far more important than a view on this video, and you should remember that and you should prioritize that. Obviously, we're not going to watch the whole video together. I chose on my kind of top 5 things I wanted to discuss to prevent this video from being an hour long, and that's what we're going to do right now.
Every year, height, weight, blood pressure, compare me to the national average BMIs, conclude I was overweight, and that I need to go to McDonald's less. I think I was 6 or 7 when I started weighing myself every day after meals in the morning, terrified to see the number go up. But it would, because it was supposed to, because I was a growing child. But I don't know when that number started to become my identity, or when that red arrow started to decide whether I was hungry or not.
Linda, unfortunately, at the age of 6 or 7 years old, is already doing what many of us do today, which is obsess over the number on the scales. A lot of us identify that so many factors and variables can influence that number. It is not purely as simple as how much you weigh all the time sort of thing. You know, time of the month could influence it, water intake, food intake the night before, so many things. When you're 6 or 7 years old, you don't think about that. You don't have that ability to fully comprehend that variables can change numbers. So essentially you stand on it, and essentially your worth is just what it is. There's no consideration of other factors, it is just what's on the scales. I understand to some extent the reasoning behind why you've got to compare to national average to see numbers, data, statistics, all that jazz. Is there a consideration for what impact that could have on the mental health of children? And I think ultimately mental health obviously is still heavily stigmatized, and mental health in adults is certainly more discussed, same in teenagers, but no one really discusses mental health in children. A lot of people have this idea that children who are in the process of still developing emotional maturity and understanding can't face mental health hindrances, when that's not the case. Children can very much face anxiety, children can face depression. I can vouch for that myself because my first periods of mass anxiety to the point where I would vomit due to panic attacks were happening when I was at school. And I don't mean 16, 17, I mean 7 or 8. I'd go to my friends' houses for sleepovers, but because I was then separated from my mum and from my house and my safety, when it got to the evening time, I would get very unwell. I had no idea what it was until 12 years later, when someone explained to me what anxiety was. I was like, this makes so much sense. I've had that as long as I can remember. Everyone used to be like, oh, he's just a nervous child. No, it was anxiety. Maybe it's a consideration of, obviously it's fantastic that mental health is being more discussed in adults and teenagers. I love to see it, it's brilliant. There's obviously still a lot of work to be done, but what about the children? How could addressing mental health in children and mental health hindrances in children contribute to accelerating the healing process to prevent mental health hindrances holding them back as a teenager or as an adult? I completely forgot about this until I watched Linda's video, but now it's just reminded me that I did the exact same thing at a very similar age. I think I was maybe a bit older, maybe 8 or 9. I was weighing myself because I felt inadequate because I was a very light child. I was very skinny. I used to watch a lot of wrestling, like WWE, as you do as a kid. And my comparison would always be to those who were bigger than me. These big muscly men, these wrestlers. I thought, wow, how cool do they look? Let me get heavier. So I would literally, I remember so well, I remember some of the meals I would eat. Honestly, I remember like it was yesterday now. I remember weighing myself after every meal just to see if I could finally break a weight barrier that I've been trying to break. When in reality, I was just eating more and being heavier due to the food consumption rather than actually gaining weight. It just identifies that unhealthy behaviours have been a thing since very early on for a lot of us without maybe us realising.
10 years ago, there was one fitness influencer on YouTube. Welcome to the Blogilates era. I'm not kidding when I say I lived and breathed Blogilates. I would throw a fit and cry my eyes out if the Wi-Fi was down and I couldn't do my Blogilates for the day. She had a workout for every single part of myself that I hated. It was perfect. The perfect beginning to my body dysmorphia and exercise addiction.
I know Linda goes on to speak about how much respect she has for Cassie, which is fantastic, but this is something I want to address, and this kind of is something I feel like needs to be addressed. When you thrive of creating titles that essentially target insecurities and workouts that target insecurities, especially without explaining why what you're doing isn't going to lead to the results they were expecting, that's the problem. And it's one thing creating clickbait workouts, like hourglass workouts and all that stuff, with an explanation as to why you can't spot reduce fat, and that maybe you're using this as a means to attract people who are looking for something that could be damaging to hopefully educate them and help them. I understand that. But there's another thing creating these clickbait workouts without any context, explanation or justification. That's a problem, because that highlights and indicates to me that you're creating this for popularity, views and money, rather than to help others who are maybe falling into a trap that you're trying to prevent them falling into. One of the biggest issues I've always had with Blogilates content, I love that she's getting so many people active. I think that's a bloody amazing. I just wish that she would use her platform for better, because a lot of times she is producing a lot of things that are very questionable and concerning, and there is no explanation as to why they're wrong, because in all honesty, sometimes I question whether she knows why they're wrong herself. Her 90-day journey recently was a prime example of that. She went through many ups and downs. She did a lot of things that I thought were very questionable. Her approach to trading, food, all sorts, as well as the promotion of products that I really don't think work, and I think they're quite damaging to promote, as well as using that 90-day journey as like a marketing opportunity to essentially sell her products, like her protein powders. So I have a lot of concerns there, because a lot of people will do what Linda did, which is fall into the trap. It's all well and good Linda saying this is how her 12-year-old brain was thinking. Fantastic, obviously a very different development back then. And it's all well and good saying that as an adult she can genuinely respect the community that Cassie has built. It's all well and good respecting it now, but if the damage was done when you were 12, the damage was still done. I would have more respect if nothing that was being promoted could have been damaging in the first place. Because now you look back and think about, this is great, I appreciate this, but 10 years ago, however long ago it was, did you think that way then? Or did you spend multiple years suffering due to somebody's clickbait and somebody's misinformation.
Honestly, I spent most of it pretty miserable, insecure, slipping in and out of restricting and binging, trying to fit in with all the wrong people, relying on male validation, dressing to impress.
And this is when the big booty trend was born. After 15 years of telling me to be as small and thin and skinny as possible, you want me to have a body that looks like this?
Again, this is a problem in itself that I address in quite a lot of videos. There's this idea that there is one definition of universally accepted beauty. And for this period, it was very much like the big booty trend. Not everyone has the facilities to look like these models you see on the TV and the screens and whatever it may be. Because the reality is, due to photo manipulation, other enhancements, most of them don't have the facilities to look like who they are on the covers. Beauty standards change so much. If you spend your life chasing whatever those standards may be, you end up essentially chasing a goal that you're never going to reach. I don't know if any of you had like a Nintendo 64 back in the day and played like Super Mario or Mario 64, whatever it was. And at the very end, there was like a big staircase to go to Bowser. And if you hadn't gathered enough stars, the stairs would never end. It was like the never-ending staircase. But if you had gathered enough stars, you could actually make it to the top. Chasing beauty standards is like chasing Bowser's never-ending stairs. You will never have enough stars to get to the top. Therefore, you're going to be chasing and chasing and chasing a goal that you will never achieve. So ultimately, it comes down to there is not one definition of beauty. You and I have different preferences. Myself, I want to look a certain way. Yourself, you want to look a certain way. Neither is wrong, it is merely our preference. And we can respect each other's preferences even if they don't align with our own. The media will always portray what it deems to be clickable, what it deems to be desirable, and what it deems to be marketable. For a large period, that was very much a big booty trend. The media cannot be responsible for telling you what is beautiful. You can be responsible for telling yourself what is beautiful, and you need to be responsible for understanding that you yourself are beautiful. Regardless of whether you align with the media's beauty standards, regardless of whether you align with your friends' beauty standards. There is beauty within all of us that is very easily forgotten about when the media tells you that beauty has one look. I tell you now, it does not have one look, and whatever that one look the media tends to portray is, will change again in a few years, and it will change again after that, and it will constantly change. It will never be set. Spend more time and invest more time and energy into looking how you want to look for you, because as I've said many times before, if you spend your life trying to please other people, you'll end up pleasing nobody, whilst also hindering yourself. Spend time pleasing you, and the people who deserve to be in your life and the people who should be in your life will be pleased for you, and the people who don't will work their way out. But at the end of the day, you'll be able to come away from that knowing that other people may not be happy, but you're happy, and that's the main thing. But it's definitely a journey a lot of us need to pursue to learn to be happy within ourselves, within our bodies, within who we are as people, and not allowing the media's perception of beauty to define our value, but more so our value being defined by who we are as people and how we treat others. However you want to look is right. There's nothing wrong about however you want to look, and you should pursue it because you want to, not because other people want you to.
These past 2 years have felt like a literal dream movie out-of-body experience. Okay, I showed up as myself in a space full of toxicity and shameless hate and was accepted and welcomed with love.
This became so much of my life and my purpose and my identity so quickly. And then a wall hit me.
Industry pressures, hate comments, imposter syndrome, making money while also doing uni, experiencing COVID, going through a breakup.
I really don't know what to say. Someone who's lived her life trying to please others, social media actually ripped me apart from the inside out and killed me, but I needed it.
I don't agree with a lot of what a lot of creators say, and there's some things of Linda's I definitely don't agree with, but the one thing I think we can all agree on is that hating people and promoting a toxic behaviour towards them is not going to help anybody. You're not going to help educate, inform or enhance the life of somebody else if you're promoting hatred and negativity. If anything, that's actually going to promote further resistance, which is not what you want. I will always appreciate what these content creators such as Linda are doing regarding helping those who are within their community and regarding getting people more active and things along those lines. I think it's fantastic, and if I ever disagree with them, I will never promote hatred or negativity towards them. I feel like regardless of who the content creator is, an audience are far more likely to accept their views and be willing to listen to their point of view if they can go into the video and be like, you know what, this person's not trying to be dramatic and negative for views. Instead, they're trying to say what they want to say because they actually want to help people, and they actually want people to listen to hopefully prevent those people from falling into a trap they may have fallen into in the past.
It really is like a full circle kind of moment how my eating disorder stemmed from like clickbait titles and thumbnails. And now social media is my job and I am proudly clickbaity.
I use the same clickbait titles I know I 100% would have clicked on, expecting to find more food rules, weight loss tips, another body to compare mine to, but instead this time I'd be met by, I guess, my older self, a girl that's gone through it all, still going through it all, future me who eats without rules and works out to celebrate her body, who, after years of being at war with her differences, these differences in some way have become her confidence.
I've discussed clickbait many times on my channel, and how unfortunately in the YouTube world it is very much a necessary evil. You can never know if what somebody's saying is 100% accurate and truthful, but I'm going to give Linda the benefit of the doubt and assume that she is using these clickbait thumbnails to attract people who maybe would be trying to fall into a similar trap to herself back in the day, to essentially attract potential victims of this industry. And honestly, I do understand. I do. To some extent, you would argue I do the same. There are some things, like I said, I don't understand, which I mentioned earlier, about if you clickbait without context and clickbait without actually educating. So when Lily Sabri, for example, does like an 11 lines ab workout without really explaining that you can't spot reduce fat, and a lot of shape is genetic, things along those lines, then I have more of a problem. But if you're doing so with good intentions, and I can believe those intentions, then it is definitely more understandable, especially provided if it doesn't trigger further behaviours. That in itself is another question, because a lot of people have messaged me saying they found Linda's content and her behaviours very triggering, and in all honesty, I actually completely understand why, and that does not surprise me. But again, I think that's a conversation for another day, because I need to spend a bit of time thinking about how best to approach that conversation. Just know that yes, I fully understand why and how Linda's content could be triggering, and I definitely have some thoughts and opinions on it. But I guess the concluding thoughts here is the concern I have is that, like I said, I do understand Linda's titles and thumbnails and clickbait, but I do think maybe to some extent they're a bit too much, a bit too clickbaity. But again, that's subjective, that's just my opinion. This video almost very much comes across like an apology and an explanation. And I really do appreciate Linda showing so much vulnerability and honesty with her audience and with YouTube. I think that's fantastic. I think it's promoting a conversation. It's allowing me to have this conversation, which I do very much appreciate, because it takes a lot of bravery and courage to do so and put yourself out there online. But, like I said, this video almost comes across like a bit of an apology, explaining why she's done certain things, including clickbait, thumbnails, etc. But in my eyes, the way I always approach things is an apology doesn't mean a lot unless a behavioural change is made. Do you know what I mean? I could wrong you and say sorry and make a change. You may forgive me because I've made that change. If I wrong you, say sorry, wrong you again, say sorry, wrong you again. It's the rule of repetition. You say something over and over again, sometimes it loses its meaning. This is kind of one of the things that's fantastic. I love to see what Linda's done here, really appreciate it. But is anything going to change? And that's a question I can't answer right now, but that's certainly a question that will likely be answered in the future. But now the video is done, we're also going to crack on the comment question of the week, and it's a spicy training related one, as you'll see. Hey Harry and community, I've seen more and more programs with 2 sets, whereas I'm used to seeing at least 3. Although I understand one has to take into account weekly volume, why is that? So essentially the idea of like people doing 3, 4 and 5 sets came around because it's kind of just, it is always what was always known in the industry. But over time, science has kind of shown us that we need a lot less volume than a lot of us think to maximize results. If we're limited to like an optimal number of sets per workout and we do 2 movements, and let's say there are 3 areas of the chest we want to develop, being the clavicular fibers, the sternal fibers and the costal fibers, for example, it's much easier to split those across 3 movements with less sets than it would be to 2 movements more sets sort of thing. 2 sets and 3 sets tend to be quite popular, which I think is fair. I think I'm a big fan of doing 2 sets of everything, because essentially if I know I'm taking that 2, if not close to failure, by the time I've done the 2nd set, I'm very much near the bottom of that rep range, even if I started at the top. With a 3rd set, you can probably get away from it, but if I did a 4th set, for example, I feel like I'd be so fatigued from my previous 3 sets that I'm not really getting enough out of the movement for it to really yield the best results possible. But essentially it very much comes down to your ability to recover and what you can tolerate regarding volume. I mean, like I said, I think doing more than 3 sets can often promote almost a bit too much fatigue through one movement. It also may limit how many exercises you can do per session, which then limit how many angles and how many like fiber divisions of certain muscles you may be able to target. I wouldn't say it's necessarily right or wrong, but for most things I would stick to anywhere between like 2 and 3 sets personally, although arguably you could do 1 set if you're very early on in like a training cycle. But the idea that you need to 4, 5 or 6 sets on things has kind of been largely binned due to the points that I've previously mentioned. Like I said at the start of the video, if you decide you like the video, please let me know you like the video by dropping a like on the video. 1,300 likes in the first 24 hours is the goal, so if we reach that, that'd be bloody stupendous. If you haven't already, please do consider clicking the red button down below and subscribing to the channel, and maybe even the bell next to it so you get notified every week, twice a week when I upload. If you two have a question you want me to answer at the end of the next video, please do consider dropping it down below in the comment section for Comment Question Week, and I shall do so. Thank you for tolerating me. Thank you for tolerating my extremely naked, bald, and headwearless head today, and thank you for tolerating the video.